I want to talk about getting paid for a second. No matter what role you're trying to play, whether it's audio engineer and the band's recording, or mixing engineer, mastering engineer, producer, doesn't matter. These rules all apply. Listen to this clip real quick from Brendan O'Brien, and then I'm going to unpack it a little bit. Fair use for teaching purposes. Fair use for teaching purposes. Here we go.
So many people come in who aren't Shingle or corporate clients or record companies and just, they don't pay their bills or hassles, whatever. I made sure that whatever I was working on, they were actually going to pay the bill.
Right.
Or it was brought to me. And I had a guy tell me once, and it was the best, it was great advice. He said, have you do these independent gigs, this is how you do it. You tell them what your rate is up front. You get paid in cash up front.
Okay.
And if they don't want to do that, they're not going to pay you.
Now, would you charge?
In my personal experience, if you charge nothing for your work, or if you say you're fine with getting paid later afterwards when it's done, you will never get paid, number one, and you will, number two, never be valued. They will never think of you when they want to make something great, and even if they did have money. You're going to be the guy who does work for free in their head, and they're never going to look at you as somebody who's worth anything. So don't do work for free is the biggest tip I could give you. Charge something, anything, because even $50, if you charge that, that'll separate the amount of people. You'll get to separate from the people who really care about what they're doing, where they'll invest something, from the people who care not at all. They don't even, this is a side project, a side hobby. It's the last thing they care about. So they're not going to invest anything because you don't want to work with those people. All you will get is a headache. You'll get tons of, basically, you won't even get feedback. In other words, you'll do all this work, send them something, and you're expecting, oh, since these people understand I did all this work, they'll get back to you. No, they won't. They won't because they don't value you. They don't even value their art enough to spend anything on it, and you think they're going to value your time. Most of the time, that is not the case. So if you want to leave yourself open for not getting any communication back after you do work, then do work for free. That's the easiest way to ensure you won't get any communication back. So the reason that this is so important to me is because in order to improve, even at the level when you're starting out, like especially then, in order to improve, you need feedback. You need people to tell you what they like, what they don't like, and to have some communication. And you'll guarantee yourself that most of the people you do work for won't reply at all if you're doing work for free. So just charge something. Also, if you need to rent space to record somebody, they should be paying for the space and they should be paying for your time if you're producing the thing, which is the difference between them renting space without you and them renting space with you. So if you can offer anything in terms of the production, like deciding on performances, acting as the engineer, any of that, they should be paying for, and it's not done in your own home studio or something like that, you could absolutely charge a production fee. I know a lot of guys who do that. That's something that's very common. Also, keep in mind that if you have your own studio, even if it's just a mic and a vocal booth, people will pay a deposit, and this keeps them actually showing up and not canceling on you forever, indefinitely. Because believe me when I tell you, if they have no skin in the game, which means they booked time with you, but they didn't leave a deposit, there's nothing that's going to make them show up. Literally nothing. They can cancel because they could, why not? If anything's a little inconvenient that day, they'll push it to another day. And you were willing to accept their booking without money. So why would they expect that the next time you're going to require money to get a booking? And you are sitting there and you blocked out the time. Nobody can come record with you. You can't mix a song because you're expecting them to show up. So you have maybe you broke down a bunch of equipment and got ready for them. You got the session ready. They need to understand that takes time. You could have been preparing for 2-3 hours before they showed up. So that's why you charge a deposit. And a lot of times I'll charge half the day to get into the deposit. In other words, and it's non-refundable, but I often will allow for emergencies. In other words, you can have a policy that says, 1-2 emergencies, no problem, because things happen. We get it. We're all people. So if you've ever had an emergency where now you're sick or something, no problem. But that's not likely to happen multiple times. And if it starts being a thing where somebody cancels on you once or twice, you realize that you're already dealing with somebody who doesn't care enough about their own project to show up. So You must be taking a deposit because that will make sure they actually do show up. Okay? This works in every facet, especially if you're mixing, especially if you're mastering. Get paid up front, like Brendan says. There's a reason he said that this was one of the most important pieces of advice he'd ever gotten, because if you don't work in this way, you don't realize that every other bill that person has is more important than artwork. Music is basically artwork, and in that person's mind, if they have to pay a phone bill, the water bill, the electricity, the TV, anything else, they want to just go out to the bar one extra time that week, you won't be getting paid. So you get paid before you do the work, because as I've stressed many times, this is everything to mixing. If you can't have a clear head to know that you're going to get paid for the time you're putting in, you cannot possibly make as good of a mix as somebody who's got a clear head. So that's why you do everything in your power to make sure you can't get stiffed. You have to work like that. That will keep you focused on the work at hand and not on the possibilities of getting stiffed and how you're going to pay your bills, because this is very hard work. The same way a contractor would never do work on a house, he's not going to do the whole job, not get paid anything, and expect to get paid afterwards. The ones that work like that often get burned. You'll see tons of videos on them all over the internet where people are actually breaking up bathrooms with sledgehammers and things. It's because they got burned by the client. The client decided not to pay them afterwards, and the contractors are taking back the work. Don't go into it thinking you have to chase people to get paid. Just get paid and then do the work. That's how you have to operate. And another thing, don't ever let people convince you or tell you that working for free is the norm in this business. So many people will come at you from that angle, trying to show you based on their follower count or their amount of views they have on a video, or streams on Spotify. It could be so many different things. They will come at you and say that because of this, you should be willing to work for free. That's the standard. They'll throw the word standard at you and all this nonsense. The bottom line is this: if they actually were making any money at all, then the nominal fee, the small amount of money that you are willing to take in order to do work, especially if you're coming up, it's not going to be a big number, because you should price yourself based on, your value. If you haven't been doing this for a while, you shouldn't be charging $1,000 a song, but you should absolutely have some value to what you're doing. Charge something, and that way they'll actually reply to you. All right. And the point is, you won't have to do work for free. If they're telling you that you need to do work for free, blah, 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 they've got no money, and you don't want to work with anyone who has no money. Because if they've made anything, $100 isn't anything. People know that if their song is doing well, they're actually going to be making something. So the cost to hire somebody to basically build the song into what it needs to be great is of extreme value. They want their song to be great, and people will pay for that. Now, like I said, if you're coming up, just starting out, and you need to build a resume, that's the only time I recommend charging very, very little, or basically charging almost nothing just to get enough work under your belt. But don't charge nothing, because just having any skin in the game at all will give you clients that are slightly above the ones that don't care at all, and then you'll actually get feedback. You'll actually be able to improve. And don't think of yourself as someone who's not worth anything. Even if you're just starting out, you could look at it like your work and your time is worth something. And it's not a lot, but that's the point, is you should be getting paid something. And this will eventually allow you to raise your rates and raise your rates and raise your rates. Once you can prove your value, once you have enough stuff under your belt to show people what you've done. These are the reasons. Like, people hold back on what they will charge because inside their confidence is low. This is very common. That's why no matter how great you are and how much time you've spent into your craft learning how to be great, you will still ultimately always battle with how much you should charge. If you're not somebody who's accoladed, with tons of accolades, won awards, you're always going to be battling in your own head of, is my work worth enough? Just know that that's so common. Everybody feels that way. This is why Andrew Sheps has mentioned also, work with people on your level. Like, if you're starting out, work with bands who are starting out. If you're a person starting out, you shouldn't be expecting to get a gig, mixing for the Rolling Stones, but you should be working with people who are on your level. That'll help you to keep getting better and get to higher and higher levels. The better you get, the better the artist will be that you should be like looking to work with. You understand what I'm saying? So just keep all this stuff in mind, because I don't want anybody tricked into thinking that doing work for free is the norm. If people are coming at you that way, you don't want to work with them. And this applies to them coming into your studio especially, because if they're coming in to work with you in your studio, they need to be paying for it. They need to be. They can't be coming in thinking that it should be free, because if they do that, they're never going to value you, ever. So you want them to value you. You need them to value you, or they won't listen to you. They'll make it impossible to work with. There'll be tons of hassle. So get rid of that idea as something that you need to do in order to get clients. It's not the case. You could charge less than other people. You could charge a low amount, but get skin in the game on their end. It will help a lot. Trust me. Hope you dug the video. This is obviously a passionate subject for me, because when I was starting out, I have to say, I did a song for somebody who wound up, it was the first song I did for them was, I believe I did it free, but then like they needed something else, and then like I was just mastering, so I got paid a little bit for that. They came back to me knowing that I would basically send them a full song before I got paid on it. And they used that to be able to get me to mix a song that they never paid me on. So my point is that it only took that one time for me to never work that way again, because if people, and I had to chase them and I still didn't get any money back on it. I never got paid for that work. And the truth is, you'll be in the same position if you send a done product before you get paid. So I don't want anybody going through the heartache I went through. And do me a favor, if you guys did, if you've been through any of this, especially the seasoned guys, I want to hear in the comments just some stories like this, because I think people could really learn from them. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be like, share your stories, because they weren't worthless. Like, in other words, people can find value in what you've already experienced if you share it. So don't, like, I look at it like that was a learning experience for me that I can now share with you guys, so you don't have to be burned. So we all benefit. Everybody coming up benefits from me having been burned. All right. And if you had experiences, any experiences like that, and you share them, the same will be true of your experience. It wasn't something that you didn't learn from, and others could learn from it too. We don't all have to fall in the same pitfalls. All right. So I would really appreciate you sharing that sort of thing. Hit the like button if you dug it. Helps the channel a lot. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Evan Jaffe. This is Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.